Yeah, do you want to go first?
Well, I'm Robert, and I'm currently going to school up and down for computer
Applications.
applications to eventually work in web development in the future.
Awesome.
And I'm Kathy. I'm Robert's mom, and I work as a school psychologist in the public school district. And I've got a background in mostly education and things like that. So um, I don't know. I like playing pinball almost as much as Robert, although I'm not nearly as good.
That's quite a statement. So,
Yeah.
and I was just going to say for you two, I'm Lisa. I'm the director of recovery services at Vinfen, and I've been with the company about 10 years, a little more than 10 years. And that's enough about me. We'll talk about you now.
Yeah, well, we're really excited too when you guys contacted us. We're sorry we couldn't fly out to Boston, just with our work schedules and school schedules and time zone changes and things like that. It just didn't work out. So we really appreciate this method of being able to communicate and share.
Okay, fair enough. Robert, is it okay if I start with a question for you?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things you said in the film that really struck a chord with me is how freedom is really important to everyone. And then you spoke about there's sort of these two worlds, the special needs world and the non-special needs world. And I'm wondering, can you speak a little bit about what you find some of the similarities are, what the differences are in terms of going between the two worlds or challenges or just anything you want to say about that? I think I'm really interested.
Well, to be honest, the special needs world is like nothing stops me. Because to me, stop is not in my vocabulary in that world. Because I believe is we can have every right to have passions like everyone else, and that we have every right to want to train of what we want to do. My belief.
So how about the non-special needs world?
I'm not sure on that one.
Okay, well, it was awesome. It was very, very nice. Thank you. And then sort of on this same topic, this is a question for you, Kathy, about sort of independence and growth and adulting versus protection and vigilance as a parent. And what has been sort of your process, both just having a child and then also having a person with autism? You know, how have you sort of gone between that, or where are you in that sort of the protection versus encouraging development?
Yeah, well, you know what? Every stage, like from toddlerhood all the way through young adulthood right now, has been something new for me because it's the first time I've gone through it. Not as a parent because I have the older son as well, but just sometimes differentiating, is this partly because of the extra challenge of having autism spectrum, or is it just like typical for all parents of young adults? So things like, for example, Robert wanting some more independence, like not having to come home at a certain time or things like that. Something that a lot of parents deal with when their kids are sort of in their mid to late teens, and they're pushing the boundaries a little bit and wanting more independence. So I probably don't treat him any different than I would like any other parent of a child more in that age group, where we'd say, you can stay out late, but if you're sort of past a certain time, we expect you just to kind of check in on us and kind of let us know where you are and where things are at. I guess I kind of look at it, it's fairly typical. It's just delayed by a few years. So right now, Robert's starting to think more and more about living on his own, and he's not quite ready for it, but we're working very gradually and slowly but surely into kind of that stage that's going to be fairly soon, I think. So I don't really think of it in terms of it's somebody with autism, although I guess because I'm so used to living with somebody with it, that I don't even think about all the supports that are being put into place naturally. So just breaking everything down. It's just like when they're very little.
Absolutely. And what I was going to say is really means a lot to me, and I think people in our audience, is what Robert was saying about he may have certain challenges, but he also has certain gifts, and people are just kind of human. And so that's sort of what you're saying. Like, it is what it is. And I don't know, like, he may have autism, he may not, but we still treat him because he's our son and we love him and he's a human being. So we don't really think about it. I mean, I think that's really.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It is what it is. And since Robert was a very young age, you have to keep in mind the context when he was diagnosed too. Autism wasn't very well known. It was really reserved for the more extreme cases, like what nowadays they would call the severe end of ASD. So yeah, we just had to sort of learn to work around it, I guess. But we never hid the fact from Robert or any of our relatives or neighbors that he did have this diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. So we always used it as an opportunity to educate people. And I think from a very young age, even before he was as verbal as he is now, Robert was always a very good kind of advocate and ambassador for himself as well. So we never kind of hid it from anybody. We always approached it from both a needs base, like practically he needed to learn to start reading and doing the academics just like other kids, and he needed more support around the social skills and learning to use language and communication. But he also had these great strengths which were apparent from a young age. Not so much pinball, but just he was always interested in kids. And at that time, there was a theory, because we didn't have internet like we do now, theory like if you pulled out books from the library, that people with autism had absolutely no interest in other kids or other people. And he just, right from almost day one, showed that's not true. Like maybe he didn't sort of jump into the middle of a group of kids, but he clearly wanted to play. And so we worked from that strength where we said to the teacher, the teacher's assistants, make sure he gets a chance to play with the kids, and the kids sort of see he's really like them in many ways. So we always approached it like not only for us, but anybody who may be working with Robert, to support him, to approach it like he's got way more in common with people than being different from people. And that's, I think, really paid off, even though it was sometimes a lot of work, and sometimes it would have been easier to just kind of scoot him off on his own. But he was always integrated and included and stuff. And we made sure of that. And we were very fortunate to have teachers and other support workers that also believed in that.
To kind of shift it back to you, Robert, and put some attention on you. So tell me, I don't know anything about pinball, so this was really educational for me. But not only are you fantastic at it, but what have you learned? I mean, you have these little sort of trivia facts about it, or sort of lessons learned, or what can you tell the audience, or what would you want people to know, sort of some of the values or life lessons you've learned from pinball, or just maybe an interesting fact about pinball? Like, I know nothing, so you'll excite me no matter what you say.
Well, this last week I did a presentation in class on pinball, the business side. And one thing is, pinball was first invented in France. With pinball, the object is keep the ball in play.
Where does the name Wizard Mode tied in? Like pinball?
Tommy.
Yeah, like what is Wizard Mode? Maybe explain that and why the film is called that. That's pretty cool.
Wizard Mode is because the last thing in the pinball game is called Wizard Mode, which is the very final thing in a pinball machine. That can only be unlocked when you've completed all tasks.
Oh, wow.
In one game. And we also call it Wizard Mode because we need to, I think, because there's so many tasks for me to complete in life, That's why we call it wizard mode.
Love it. So then I have another question. Again, this kind of goes to the humanity connection part, but your whole family talks about, well, Robert talks about wonderfully about sort of the science of hugs and sort of, and this goes to what you were saying, Kathy, about breaking everything down, like what's appropriate for situation A versus situation B and really thinking it through. And I love that. And I was wondering if each of you can just kind of talk a little bit about it, like human connection or the hug science or whatever you want to say. I just thought that was really profound that you guys all
Do
talked.
you want to talk about the hug science, like the chemicals and things? You've done way more research on that than I have. So you start and then I'll add
Okay.
into it.
Just that like hugs can like release endorphins, they call it. Like the feel good endorphins like you get from working out in the gym. Because I believe working out makes us smarter. Because when we exercise, it gets new blood flowing to the brain muscles and to everywhere in the body.
You're saying hugs have that same effect as
Yes.
working out does?
Except hugs release more chemicals, where working out makes us feel good, except it exhausts us.
It's really interesting when Robert, we went through what I guess we could call the hugging phase. When Robert was very little, I couldn't even touch him like this, like you can see probably on the screen, without him like flinching or screaming. He really didn't like people touching him. He went from somebody wanting to avoid hugs to craving hugs. And now he's kind of in between, like he still likes hugs, but I think now he's learned to ask first and also to read those social cues a little bit better. But would you say that's accurate, Rob?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've gotten past that phase that was quite prevalent in the movie where he was almost obsessed with it, which is another fairly common characteristic of some people on the spectrum. They get very interested in something, and in Robert's case, it just happened to be hugs at the time. But yeah, it's kind of weaned down a little bit from that.
Got it. Well, as we conclude, I have just one request. Is there anything you want to say sort of in closing, just to the Moving Images Film Festival Vinfen audience crowd? Any sort of parting thoughts or anything you want to share? I'm sure people want to hear from you, and just anything you want to say.
People can contact me on my Instagram, robert.gagno, or my email, rob.gagno, all lowercase, @gmail.com.
And you don't mind answering questions, right?
I don't mind answering questions at all, and I would love to answer.
Wow.
So we just want to say thank you. We're incredibly grateful and really meaningful film. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kathy. And just thank you for your contributions and good luck with the film. And let us know if we can be of any help to you. And we really appreciate you participating in our festival.
Thank you very much for this. And yeah, if you have any other questions, just contact us later too. So
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
yeah, take care. Bye.
Bye.